Hello everyone. Welcome to the Intelligence Engine 1.4 webinar. We're going to go through a couple of features, but just to start off, the first feature I'm excited to introduce today is historical AI analysis for omnichannel communications. In previous Intelligence Engine releases, we've been able to categorize, summarize, and score individual voice and chat interactions. However, in many businesses, the customer inquiry can be a long story of mixed communications where the customer and the agents may switch between multiple channels, such as from voice calls to messengers, from chats to emails, um, any combination in order to resolve the same request. In BrightPattern, end-to-end communications are represented as cases. And today we're adding the same historical processing for emails and cases. No matter how long it is, each case is analyzed as one customer inquiry. So when the customer bounces between channels, we'll analyze the full journey, not the disconnected fragments. Now, now all contact center communications, including cases and individual interactions, are treated under a single consistent set of rules. Cases are becoming available for categorization and discovery tools. Depending on the settings, cases can be analyzed either a specified number of hours after resolution or when they are closed. And remember, we don't only categorize, we extract signals so we can detect emotions like dissatisfaction, frustration, and predict quality markers, possible churn. Once we have categories, we can build custom reports and break down any key metrics by those categories. And that gives us actionable takeaways, such as which drivers can give us the most volume, which flows should we automate first with AI agents, where do we need knowledge improvements, where will AI assistants give the biggest value. So we not just label our interactions, we use analytical results to prioritize areas for improvements. As I mentioned, we analyze cases at the end, but for auto scoring, the system behaves a little differently. A case may span several weeks, and we don't want to wait until the very end to measure quality. With our historical auto scoring, we evaluate each agent email or response in other channels as soon as they become available, identifying compliance issues or unsafe patterns. As a result, analysts can catch problems earlier, and agents can get feedback sooner. This helps reduce avoidable escalations. We also added historical summarization for cases. Now we can access summaries in the intelligence engine when performing analysis. In future versions, we will add export capabilities and display them in case management. Another exciting feature is export for historical assets using workflows. It's been repeatedly requested to be able to export transcriptions, summaries, and categories to CRM systems. However, many do not want to pay extra for real-time assets. Those are already exportable via workflows. But a lot of people are fine with waiting up to a day for historical assets to become available. We also wanted to keep configuration simple and reuse existing workflows. So in this release, we're adding a new wait historical asset workflow block. The only downside is that it requires BrightPattern Core 5.35. The good news is that 5.35 is already being released and is currently rolling out across clusters. Another prerequisite is the explicit intelligence engine features that also come with 5.35. Previously, we enabled AI QM, aka autoscoring, categorization discovery, and historical AI summaries via tenant advanced options. Now we're adding four checkboxes on the features page. During migration, existing advanced options will be mapped to new feature settings. This matters because a new workflow block can only be request they can only request assets for features that are enabled on the features tab. So what does this block do? It pauses workflow execution until the requested asset is ready. If you need two assets, for example, the transcript and summary, just place two blocks consecutively. You can configure the timeout window. The default is 2 days, and you can do it up to 15 days. The block periodically checks availability, and once the asset is ready, it stores it in a new set of workflow variables that are already nicely documented. If an error occurs, the block exits via failed, and provides error details in specific variables. Now, using the same CRM integration blocks, we can export historical transcripts, historical AI summaries, and detected categories/tags for voice calls and chats. Support for emails and cases will be delivered in a future version. Another change is language groups. Today, intent definitions and suggestions are tied to specific dialects such as English US and English Australia. If an intent is defined for English US, but the interaction is detected as English Australia, the intent will not be extracted. As a result, you would have to copy the same intent definition across multiple dialects and manually keep them consistent. Another fact about automated language detection which we use, for example, in email processing, language detectors usually identify only the base language and not the specific dialect. In practice, dialects matter for text-to-speech because pronunciation and wording differ, but they are not important for intent extraction. So the idea was simple: use a single definition across all dialects of the same language and allow overrides only when needed. With this change, we introduced a base language default, for example, English any. Region-specific overrides are still supported when they are needed. We also implement a migration process that removes duplicates. So if during migration, identical intent definitions for English UK and English Australia were present, they would merge into a single English any definition. From that point on, only one definition needs to be maintained. At runtime, definition selection follows this priority: exact detected region first, then base language default, and then any available dialect with the same base language. And I see that I have a question in the chat. Let me check that real quick. Yes, this works for So this works for any language with multiple dialects. Um, the same logic will apply. Um, and the question that was asked was, does this work for Spanish? Uh, Now I'll briefly cover some of our smaller features. So we introduced a separate retention limit for AI analysis results. For tenants, the default limit is 1 year. For existing, it will be set during migration to match the retention period of detailed records in the reporting database. This change takes effect after the BrightPattern Core 5.35 is installed. Um, the last change is that interaction analytics now supports AI account advanced options, introduced in BrightPattern Core 5.342. These options allow us to manage model behavior without making frequent changes to the core system. When the model providers release new models, they sometimes introduce new capabilities such as reasoning that may or may not work well for us for our use cases. Advanced options allow these capabilities to be enabled or disabled as needed. These options can be merged when using your own AI accounts. The syntax depends on the provider and model, and it can be found in the provider documentation. We recommend using a test connection button to validate whether the applied advanced options are configured correctly. And just briefly, since we have some time, I'd like to remind everyone of the historical AI features that we have available to be enabled in your systems, which are discovery, categorization, auto scoring, and summarization. To briefly cover what each item is, discovery allows you to discover unknown topics, events, and emotions that occur in your interactions. It tags your interactions with these discoveries, and you can use it to track and analyze you can track and analyze your conversation transcripts. With categories, you can do the same, is essentially the same thing as discovery, except that you are explicitly creating the different items to track. Whereas discovery uses AI to come up with the different tags, categorization allows you to create those tags yourself in order to track them long term. So the benefits of this could be, for example, tracking KPIs and different metrics, investigate correlations between events, and just overall improving your calls and services. Auto scoring is our automated QM system. This allows you to evaluate your agent performance scores and your customer experiences without having a manual QM evaluator on site. This can give you 100% compliance monitoring, prioritize interactions validation, and it gives you a lot of insight into how your teams and agents are performing and how your customers are experiencing the interactions themselves. And lastly, summarization helps um, provide immediate context to conversations by summarizing key points of the conversations that you're interested in. This will help you find target interactions more efficiently and bring focus items to the front, giving you a snapshot of what occurred. Um, are there any questions regarding any of the features that we talked about today? And I'll give it a second here and there. If there are no questions, we can end the webinar here. Thank you for attending, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.